Wow. Wow, what a welcome. What a welcome. You guys can hear me okay? Amazing. I'm so happy to be here right now. Man, I feel pumped. I feel pumped. This is amazing. How's everyone feeling in here? Man, I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to be in Florida, and I'm happy to be back in your beautiful country of the USA. Now, a lot of my fans and followers and supporters have thankfully made me an honorary American, but I actually hail from the UK. I know I don't give it away in the accent. But the USA is an incredible country. It's a truly, truly incredible country, and this isn't something I'm just saying. I've traveled a lot of places. I was born in England. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. My family is originally from Nigeria, and I've been to 37 different countries, spent a lot of time in a lot of different places. And I keep coming back here for a lot of reasons, and this is a truly, truly special country. Now, a topic I want to discuss today is some of the things that I think are concerning that are happening in this country. I want to talk about not just political polarization, but I want to talk about a concept that I deem moral polarization. I think across the USA, especially over the last few years, all across the Western world, though, in fact, we're seeing people pulling apart further and further, it seems. People struggling to be able to get on with each other. In the past, we've always had political polarization. People agreed on the facts, but had different opinions about them, different ideas for solutions. But I think that what's happening now is some type of inversion, it seems, where people are no longer operating off the same basis of facts even. People are not even acknowledging that objective facts exist in some cases. And this is concerning for a whole host of different reasons. Now, first of all, one reason why this is such a concerning thing to me, and perhaps for other people in this room, is because when it comes to conflict resolution, there's only 3 different ways you can resolve any conflict in the world. It doesn't matter if this is between friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouses, countries, groups. There's only 3 ways you can resolve any conflict. Number 1 is communication, discussion, debate, diplomacy. Number 2, separation, segregation, separation, divorce, going your separate ways. This group does not interact with that group. And the 3rd way, of course, is physical violence, fights, wars, blowing each other up, right? These are the only 3 ways you can resolve any conflict. So hopefully, needless to say, I'm a big fan of option number 1. I'm a big fan of keeping that lane open. Now, moral polarization is concerning because when people are not able to get on with each other, and people cannot talk, and people cannot communicate, or they're unwilling to, it opens us up to a lot of major problems. First of all, it causes neighbors and fellow citizens to turn upon each other. You're in a really dangerous and an unstable situation when people are seeing one another, their friends, their family, their neighbors, even their own family members, seeing them as opposition, seeing them as enemies, not just as people who you may have some disagreements with, but people who are your enemy. And what is it that you do with an enemy? You seek to destroy an enemy. We've seen this over the past few years. We've seen the media, we've seen tech giants, we've seen some people who even call themselves activists. We've seen politicians turning people against each other. Black against white, playing the race card. Men against women, playing the gender card. All different ways. They even managed to turn people against their own neighbors and fellow citizens over whether or not someone chose to take a specific injection. Now, I don't think that in the past anyone ever lost friends over whether or not they took a flu shot. Raise your hand if maybe no? Okay. However, what we've seen, not just in this country, but across the entire world, is just this increasing hostility. And that's a massive concern. It also erodes trust in institutions. And I think that, man, the medical establishment, the media, many corporations, many individuals and groups and politicians have lost a lot of trust in the general public. The general public has lost trust in them, and rightly so. After all, they've been lying to us continuously for such a long period of time. And this is also something that's not sustainable. When you have these institutions, there needs to be some degree of trust, because if you can't have trust, then liberty is also going to eventually go out the window. Another problem is that for a nation, it's very deranging. On an individual level, it's confusing. When people start saying that left is right and right is left and 1 + 1 = 5, people cannot even decide the definition of basic words like man and woman anymore. Everything is now up for debate. Objective facts, reality, everything up for debate, everything becoming a culture war issue. And when this happens, it also makes people less patriotic. As I've said already, the USA is a fantastic country. People shouldn't take for granted what you have here. But the first word, thank you. Okay. I love it, I love it, I love it. But what does the U stand for? United. Yes, the U stands for united. We don't want the DSA. We can't just have the divided states of America. And this is the risk that's being run. Now, this is such a new country. I'm from the UK. The college that I went to is 700 years older than this entire country. There are chairs and buildings in my home country that are many, many years older than this country is. And so with that comes so much dynamic activity, so much entrepreneurship, so much opportunity. But with it also comes a lot of potential for chaos. And through that, I think it's important that we're able to find this through line where, once again, people stop seeing each other simply as opposition and enemies, and we bring people together again. Another point with moral polarization is that it demoralizes people. We all want and seek purpose and meaning. We all want to have a belief in ourselves, in those around us. Everything is based on trust. We need to have a sense of faith. We need to have belief in our nations, in our countries. It's important for people, it's important for Americans to want to hold America together in a united fashion. Because if you're not able to do that, then you don't have a country. You simply have a large mass of land, and you're opening yourself up to all sorts of opposition. And the final point that's concerning about moral polarization is that it leads to authoritarianism. It leads to tyranny. When trust is eroded, when people are divided and they're fighting each other, oftentimes over complete nonsense, not just online but offline as well, then it creates an opening for people who are authoritarian and who do not have your best interest in mind to step into that gap and start dictating to you and tell you exactly what you should be doing. And Lord knows we have seen this over the past 2.5 years. It's not something that we want to see again. Now, I've given several examples of moral polarization right there. But why is this even happening? Why is this even happening? I think it's deep. I think there are some surface level answers, and I think there are some deeper roots. I think one simple one comes with the challenge of the diversity and the great diversity that exists in this country. One of the amazing things about liberty and freedom is that in a country such as the USA, you are free to believe what you wish to believe, and within reason, you are free to do what you want to do. But with that opens up a challenge of what is the thing that people have in common. I think that's very important for every American, whatever your beliefs to be thinking right now. What is it that all Americans have in common? I'm not going to give away any answer here, but I think it's something for everybody to think about. What is it that every single person has in common, whether or not you agree on every single issue? I think another thing that's happened in the wake of the loss of a lot of traditional religion amongst people is that various secular ideologies have actually stepped in to take the place. And now people are believing in all sorts of different isms and schisms, and oftentimes wanting to use the state, use the force of the government to censor, stifle, deplatform, and attack those that they disagree with. It's not enough for them to be able to believe what they want. They want to force you to believe and behave in very particular ways. Now, of course, this is a room full of liberty lovers. But that itself has become controversial, hasn't it? People no longer believe in liberty. People claim that they do, but again, we've seen recently that that's not even something that everybody agrees with. People now say that words are violence. But also that violence is not violence, as long as you have the right political beliefs. It's all very confusing. It's all very, very confusing. Another thing that's happened, though, is there's been the breakdown of family, of course. And with that, that creates another opening for the government to step in there and start playing mommy and daddy. And I can see that not everyone is here. I can tell that people here are not giant fans of the government. I'm generally sensing that. I'm generally sensing that. These are my people right here. Another thing that's happened, though, is the media has been allowed to stoke so much and fuel so much division. Again, setting people against each other every day. I mean, I know that you guys can see it as well, but honestly, coming as an outsider, as someone who was not born and raised in this wonderful country, it sort of blows my mind when I see just how aggressively the media works to divide people along every single line. It's crazy to me. I love this country, but one thing I don't love is the way that people obsess over labels. Right? Why do people obsess over labels? Okay? I'm from the UK. If someone said that I am African British or that I am Black British, doesn't it sound weird? So why are Americans always saying white American, Black American, African American, Latino American, the Jewish, this and this? You're all American. That's something you've got in common. So I don't want to just talk about problems. I want to talk about some potential solutions, because in this room is the future. We've got some young people in this room. I know we have some great minds in this room. We have so many people in this room who I know are already doing wonderful and amazing things, and who are going to go on and do more wonderful and amazing things. And as you're in this journey, as you're going through life, as we've already discussed, you're going to come across people who are hostile towards you, who are hostile towards your beliefs, who are hostile towards values of freedom and liberty themselves. So how can we communicate with people like this? I think, first of all, I'm going to give you guys 7 pieces of advice here. You can make notes if you want to, or you can just try to remember them. I'm going to give you 7 tips that I found very helpful when communicating my own ideas and beliefs and just having conversations with people on different levels. The first one is to be bold. To be bold and be courageous. You don't need to be, I'm not saying be hostile, I'm not saying be aggressive, but be bold in your beliefs. This is the land of liberty. This is the land of freedom. This is one of the only countries. This is the only country. Please understand that this is very important for you guys to understand. Just last week, I was watching a video of a man in the UK being arrested by the police because he posted a meme that the police officer said caused someone anxiety. This is last week in my country. Okay? This is the only country in the world. I don't know if you guys actually know this. This is the only country in the world with true freedom of speech. The only one. The only one. The UK is cool. Europe is great. There's many great countries in the world, but there are places where you can be arrested, you can be put in prison, you can be fined, punished. There's places where you can even be killed for simply saying the wrong thing or for speaking out against the government. So it's important that the USA does not go down that path, because there's people who are trying to take it down that path. And this is why it's so important for you to be bold and courageous when you are defending your values. Point number 2 is to find common ground. This isn't always easy. It's not always easy. But when you talk to people on a level and you treat each other as human beings and you develop that rapport and you don't just jump straight into controversial topics, you'll find that most people are relatively open-minded. I do believe And I have to remind myself of this every single day because I spend too much time on Twitter and it makes you lose faith in humanity. But most people are decent. Most Americans are good people. People are generally, not a lot of people are waking up every morning working out how they can make the world a worse place.
Pelosi, looking at you.
There might be a couple. So find common ground with people. Find out why people believe what they believe. Be willing to listen. Listen before wanting to put across your opinion and your values and your beliefs. Number 3 is to defend the truth. Please defend the truth, because I've never seen the truth under attack in the way that it is right now. People are saying all kinds of nonsense. I mean, right now, standing on stage, you are listening to the British women's deadlift record holder. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I had to smash the glass ceiling for all of my fellow women. But this speaks to the absurdity of the time that we are living in. Now, as we've said, this is a free country. People are free to believe what they want to believe. People are free to live their lives as they want to live. However, there is objective reality. And when you ignore objective reality, you end up with these types of silly situations. Okay? Number 4 is to apply the principle of charity. I've touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think one thing that social media is encouraging and causing people to do, and I think the traditional media is doing this as well, is it's actively encouraging and rewarding people who practice the opposite of this, the principle of uncharity. Are you guys noticing that people are going out of their way now to be offended by things that they're not really offended by? It doesn't. Point of personal privilege. Some of you guys will remember that one. But apply the principle of charity. Try to assume that give people the benefit of the doubt. If someone says something and you're not really sure what they mean by it, don't jump to the idea that they meant the worst thing possible. Or if someone holds a belief that seems to be conflicting or contrary to your own, don't assume they believe it simply because they're the worst person in the world and they want everybody to die, right? This is the way people are behaving, calling everything, I've never heard the term racist, the term white supremacist, the term sexist, transphobic, homophobic. All of these words just being thrown around, put everywhere like ketchup, right? Just being used to describe absolutely everything. Okay? It's not conducive to healthy conversations, and it's certainly not uniting people. Point number 5, following on from that, is to lead with kindness, compassion, and good humor. Humor is so important. I have a general belief that people who are having fun tend to win more. And I think, funnily enough, this even goes for politics. And there are so many people out there who they can't even laugh anymore, right? They just want to be offended by everything. They want to be triggered by everything, and they want to scream at everything. And this is not a healthy way to live. You want to be able to have fun. You want to be able to have jokes. You want to be kind and compassionate. And also, if you are kind and you're compassionate and you're amiable and personable, your message is going to come across a lot better. I know people in this room, thank you, people in this room believe in liberty. This room is full of people with good ideas and practical ideas. However, the way you deliver them is also important. So when you are talking your liberty talk and you're talking your freedom talk, be sure to do it with a good sense of humor and to do it with a smile on your face as well. Point number 6 is to focus on the people in the middle. Now, I think when it comes to individuals who are more politically charged, whether they consider themselves on the left or the right, I'm not a huge fan of those terms, but people often forget that there's a big group of 70 to 80% of people in the middle who have their leanings, but they don't have some strong, hardline political ideology. Oftentimes, again, due to the nature of the internet and due to the fact that some people are just very, very loud, it's possible that 2% of the population can end up looking like 50% of the population. But don't forget that there are so many people there in the middle who are either just disengaged or slightly engaged, or they don't pay much attention to what's going on. And these are the people who you can win over. These are the people who you can talk to. You know, if you've got 2% crazies over there, 2% crazies over, it's going to be hard to get to them. But all those people in the middle, don't abandon them, because that's where you can really make your wins. And the last point I want to make in terms of solutions and how you can communicate is to focus on one person at a time. And ideally, I recommend doing this in the real world because, as we've already discussed, these things can be very challenging online. But when you're able to sit down with someone and talk face-to-face, whether it's a stranger, a friend, a family member, somebody you know, you'll find that those conversations are a lot more fruitful. Now, if you're trying to broadcast to everybody, it just can get messy. And there's times where you need to broadcast to large numbers of people at a time. I'm doing this right now. But when you're really trying to change hearts and minds, I've found that it's most effective to focus on one person at a time. Now, one more time, because this is such a freedom-oriented event and audience, there's an element of freedom and liberty that I think often gets lost in the conversation. People talk a lot about rights. Rights, rights, rights. We hear this all the time. I talk a lot about rights. We're always talking about rights. But we all need to remember that with every right comes a responsibility. And I think it's so important for libertarian-minded people, freedom-oriented people, to remember that and to introduce that as well and keep that in mind in the messaging, because that's something that lands well with people, and it's such an important point. I think that when people just talk about rights and me all the time, I'm allowed to do this, I'm allowed to do that, we all know that just because you're allowed to do something or that something is legal, it doesn't make it good. We all have a right to freedom of speech, but we should be responsible with how we use our words. You guys are lucky you've got a Second Amendment. Again, something that's very rare across the country, but with that, of course, comes the responsibility. So with every right comes an equal responsibility, and I think that's a really key message to get in there as well. So, in order to wrap this up, once again, I really want everyone in this room just to have some perspective and gratitude and understand that you've really got something special here.
Yes, we do.
You live in a truly incredible and one-of-a-kind country, and simply by being a citizen of this country, you have so many opportunities and advantages. And I think that there are so many people, unfortunately, in the country, perhaps because they haven't traveled as much, they just take it for granted. They take it for granted. People talk a lot about history, and history is very important. But if you look at history and you see what's going on, when you look around the world and you see all the different things that are going on around the world, that should give you some perspective, and it should give you a sense of gratitude for what you have right here. It's taken a long time for it to get here. Thank you. It's taken a long time for it to get here. It's taken a long time for the USA to live up to its potential, to truly live up to liberty, truly live up to equality, truly live up to decency. But now that we've got it, we need to be careful. We need to be so vigilant to make sure that it's held on to, because there are people who do want to destroy it, internally and externally. There are people who are working to erode liberty. There are people who are working to erode equality as we know it. And there are people who would actually prefer that everyone stays divided and judges one another by superficial notions such as our genitalia or the color of our skin.
What is a woman?
And so, I say that to say, I love this country. You've got an amazing thing. God bless everybody in the room. God bless Young Americans for Liberty. And God bless the USA. Thank you.